What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Rocket Live. I am your host, Chris Vaglio, and I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time today to listen to an episode of the Rocket Live podcast. As always, today's interview was audio taken from a video that I did with my guest. So 3 quick things I just want to let everybody know of at the top of the show. Number 1, you can always watch all of the video versions of these interviews over on the Rocket Growth Agency YouTube channel, and you can access the link directly to this interview by using the link in the show notes. And also, while you're there too, please feel free to hit that subscribe button so that way you get notified every single time a new video is uploaded to the channel. And also, please hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening to this podcast. Number 2, if you enjoy the show and want to help and support the podcast, 2 ways you could do that is using the link in the show notes and heading over to Buy Me a Coffee. And over there, you can feel free to buy me a coffee and set whatever amount that you would like or that you feel most comfortable with. And another way that you can support the show is you can head over to my merch store, which you can access through the links here in the show notes. And feel free to buy a piece of merchandise. We have all kinds of cool branded Rocket Growth Agency and Rocket Live merch over there. And every time you buy a piece of merch, you're not only supporting the show, but we also do donate a portion of the proceeds to local charities here in New Jersey. And number 3, if you're a creative business professional right now that's listening to this and you need help creating a rock star business and brand that will help you get noticed, feel confident, and bring in more clients, then I definitely want to talk with you. Please feel free to use the link in the show notes and schedule a free 30-minute consultation with me, as I'd be happy to help to get your business rocking. Now with that, let's start the show. I want to welcome you all to the Rocket Live studio. Today, I've got a really awesome guest on. I've been waiting to get him on for a while. I actually was a guest on his show yesterday, so I'm going to have Mr. Billy Thorpe coming up in just a little bit. But before I do, just want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, which is Win Local. And Win Local is basically the number one way that I know how to network now. It's completely changed the way I network. It's the world's first and most intelligent card. So it's Share Card. It's a contactless way to share your contact information via SMS, QR code, NFC tags, and web. So each time your card is shared, the recipient is added to your target audience. This is basically one of the biggest ways to network. It has changed my life. I absolutely recommend that if you're out there and you're networking and you're going to events, you're going to trade shows, you're doing all that, you want to get the Share Card by Win Local. All you have to do right now is use the link in the show notes right now, winlocal.com, and you can use my promo code ROCKET10 to get an additional 10% off right now. So once again, all you have to do to get your Win Local Share Card is to head over to winlocal.com using the link in my show notes or the video description below and use the code ROCKET10 at checkout to get your 10% off. Now, with all that being said, I want to bring my guest up right now. He's waiting there in the little virtual studio there. Mr. Billy Thorpe. How are you, my friend?
What's up, Chris? Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me on, dude. Not much. I bet some of your music fans are like, Billy Thorpe, the Australian rock star. And then they're like, wait, he died a long time ago. So
yeah. They're like, wait a second, Billy Thorpe? Wow, you're really landing some great guests here. Wait a second, didn't he pass away? I don't know.
I've been on a lot of Australian podcasts. It's clickbait.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, you're okay with it. You know, it's okay because it gets you some notoriety anyway. It's a good door opener, good icebreaker. Right?
Yeah, it's good.
So I appreciate you coming on the show today. I was actually, so for anybody who's watching live, much later on, I was actually a guest on Billy's live show, his daily show called Creating Daily. And I was just a guest on it yesterday. So it was kind of funny to we've totally flip-flopped here. I was a guest on his and now he's a guest on my show. So it just kind of worked out that we were doing our shows back to back like that. But I love your show. It's a really great
Thank
show.
You.
And I know we're going to talk all about that because you've got a lot of things going on, and you and I connected via a Clubhouse, as I feel like almost every guest that comes on here, that's usually I think I just have to have that play like as a drop. You're like, and we connected on Clubhouse, it's like every single person that comes in here, it's usually that story. But I mean, it's kind of in the way of the world over the last few years. And I think social audio, I mean, one of the biggest benefits of social audio, say what you will about it, is that, you and I got to know each other. We would have never met each other via that or, without that. And many of the other guests I've had on here and the other show that I do, the Chris and Amanda show, I would have never met Amanda if it wasn't for Clubhouse. So, Clubhouse is, say what you want about it. But at the end of the day, the main goal is to connect people. And it's absolutely done that. And so you and I got connected in a lot of the different podcasting chats and things like that happen in and around the Clubhouse. And we've gotten to know each other a little bit. And we kept saying, we got to have each other on each other's show because we have so many crossover and so much overlap in our backgrounds. But enough of me talking. I want to throw it over to you. So, for everybody listening right now or watching this, let's just give everybody a little primer into Billy Thorpe. Who are you? Where did you come from? What do you do? That kind of stuff.
Well, have you ever heard of a planet called Mars? Because that's where I'm from.
I have. Wow.
Yeah. Elon Musk and I we're siblings.
I knew it. I knew you were coming on here to drop some bombs, and there it is.
There it is. Exclusive. I've never shared that publicly anywhere. So this is the first time.
Right here on Rocket Live.
Oh, man. Well, Chris, I appreciate it, man. Once again, it's always a treat to share a stage, share a screen with you. I mean, we're back-to-back episodes. All we got to do is keep going. Who knows? We might have a daily show before long. You know what I
mean? We just very well might.
I know. We keep going like this. But so, man, a little bit of, just kind of a little bit of background. I'll keep it digital media, podcasting and live streaming. I kind of went to, similar to you, I went to a school that was, creative school, did a lot of video production, website development, graphic design, music, kind of a hodgepodge, a school with a lot of tracks.
Right.
Fast forward, worked for a nonprofit for 10 years doing all their media stuff. And then left that, went to the t-shirt printing business.
Right.
Watched a bunch of YouTube videos, slept on a warehouse floor, the fun story. And then the pandemic forced me into a pivot and got into podcasting as a hobby, kind of in the, kind of right before that, a year or so before that.
Right.
And started a fishing show, a live show on Facebook, which went really well. I helped build that up with my co-host, sold it to him, did some other stuff. And then during the pandemic, people were like, dude, how do you podcast? And so I was like, I need to make some money. So let me tell you, if you got $1, I'll tell you. So yeah, man, did that. And then one of those people I was talking to was like, yeah, we don't have the budget to pay you for the service. So, can we partner? And so I started another fishing podcast and been building it for 2 years and monetized it super early and launched a membership and a lot of fun stuff like that. So,
right. So, yeah. So I feel like you and I had very similar kind of things happen, life events and things like that. And definitely coming from the same background. And, for me, I definitely found podcasting. I was podcasting for a little bit before. I think I started podcasting back in 2015 with my buddy Victor. We started the Galaxy of Geeks podcast. And literally it just came out because he and I had actually went to college together back in 1992. And we, after that, it was a 2-year college. We just lost track with each other. And then he eventually moved over to Spain and we reconnected via Facebook. Here we go. Social media, helping connect, but we reconnected on Facebook and we just started having all these chats all the time. And all we were doing is talking about Star Wars and talking about all the Marvel comics, just everything that was on. And he was doing a music podcast, which he still does, Mars Attacks, and or Signals from Mars, sorry. And it's all music based, metal, hard rock. But then, he was like, well, why don't we just start a show where we're just talking about basically these chats? Let's just take them on to a show. And that was Galaxy Geeks. And we did that for a long time up until 2021. Last year, we finally, just sort of retired just because it was I think we just ran out of steam creatively and all that. But but then it was, I started doing this show on my own. And that was wow, I've never really just hosted a show or done that without having a co-host. And that was really out of the pandemic kind of started that because I was like, well, what can I do that being in the world and video and stuff, but like I'm not going out and producing any videos, but I want to help people in my network. So what can I do? Well, I could interview them and talk about their business, and then maybe that'll get them some exposure to other people in my network who don't know what they're doing, and maybe they can connect, and who knows, maybe they'll get some business out of it. Yeah. That's literally how the show started. Wow. And and it just kind of kept going from there until and now here it is. Like I'm still doing it, and talking to awesome people like yourself. So I feel like the stories of where people started podcasting have like a very similar kind of background, how do you get into it? And it's like always something like that.
Yeah. Well, and the funny part is for me, man, it really started, I had this show. So I worked at this fishing newspaper kind of in the interim of like jobs and, owning a business and all that kind of stuff. And so I really like fell in love with the community of fishermen. And, I was like, dude, this is a fun spot. This is a fun community. Yeah. And so when I left that job, I kind of missed that community. I'm like, man, what if I started a live show on Facebook and brought on these fishing guides to talk about fishing? And right. I wanted to learn how to saltwater fish better anyway. And so anyway, I got a friend of mine, and, we were meeting about something else. And then I was like, you know what? I'll just tell him this idea. And dude, within a couple of weeks, we had this show kind of rocking and rolling, and we're doing live every every Tuesday night at like 7 or something. Like it was a ton of work. We were tearing gear down, putting gear up, putting lights up, putting mics up, borrowing stuff. I borrowed gear from people because I was like, dude, I'm not going to buy anything. I don't even know if this is going to work. Right. And then our audience was like, hey, can you guys put this in audio? Can you put it in a podcast? And I'm like, I'm familiar with podcasts because I listened to them, but I had no idea how to manage one or whatever. Right. So we were doing like this. We were doing live to drive, and then we just ripped the audio and put it on a podcast player. And we're like, cool, we got a podcast. We're podcasters, So yeah, I mean, there's some gurus that would punch me in the face for calling myself a podcaster because I just don't take it as serious as most people do. But I have a lot of fun with it. I have a lot of fun with the video portion, the live stream portion for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun thing. And it's something that for me, I've almost always done the show live, even when I was doing Galaxy Geeks, even though we recorded it. And, we were doing it back in the day when we were like trying to do it on Skype, and it would be like, oh my God. And sometimes we even lost a whole episode. Like we'd have to go back and re-record it because we'd be like, oh my God, that's going back, like I said, like 2015. We were like, I don't know, all right, let's do it on Skype, because I didn't even have any equipment. I was pretty much using my phone to podcast with, like that was it. And then I eventually I had that in my headphones, like my AirPods
with the zipper, with the zipper, the mic on.
Yep. That is, I go back and listen to those early Galaxy Geeks, man. You're like, I'm like, oh my God, who the hell is listening to this? This is terrible. Like, I said, my audio sounds awful, but we did it. But it's like, to what you were saying, though, your point is that, getting involved is like, it kind of is that easy. People ask me all the time, and you get this too, because, you're a podcaster, but you're a content creator. You're out there, you're putting information out, whether it's live stream and using the audio and putting it out on a podcast stream. It is really that easy to start, as long as you've got something you want to talk about and information to share, you can have a podcast. I mean, it's kind of that 100%. Simple,
Yeah, man. Well, and I think it's the easiest now, and it's going to continue to get easier because that's why technology exists, right? That's why people are continuing to develop, is make all this stuff really easy for us. And so, and I'm not going to say it can't be an excuse. I mean, there's different people, different levels. I grew up with technology essentially. So, it's like, for me, I can say, oh yeah, there's no excuses, but really there's not really any, if you really want to do it. I mean, the information's there. You got YouTube, you can learn anything off of YouTube. I mean, I learned a whole screen printing business off of YouTube, like literally how to do everything. And so, same with podcasting. I mean, I learned everything I know about podcasting off of there. And then I take that, I put my own spin on it. I get innovative. I take past experiences from different businesses and all that and kind of put it into, the podcasting and live streaming world. So yeah, man, it's, you can go out and get a USB microphone for $60, plug it in your computer, and I guarantee you got a software that'll record audio on there. Or just do this, just jump on StreamYard or Facebook Live or YouTube Live right on your phone, right on your computer. I mean, it is so easy compared to 10, 15 years ago. It's insane.
Yeah, to doing it on Skype.
Yeah, Skype
and whatever
terrible.
else. Yeah,
Yeah, Skype
it is awful.
terrible. Yeah, it
so
was
bad.
But back then it was like leading, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. And before that, you had to get some nerd to build a computer for you to do something. I don't even know what they did.
Yeah, I know. I a few episodes back, I had a friend of mine who's like, actually, it's like an OG podcaster from 2005, Mark Striegel.
One of those guys. No, I'm just kidding.
And he was doing, he had a show called Talking Metal and then Talking Rock. And now he's a Sirius XM DJ. So, it finally led to something, for him. But I mean, we were talking about it like on that show too, a bunch of episodes ago about, podcasting. It wasn't even called podcasting then. He's like, podcasting wasn't even, it really just came out. Like that word podcasting came out because you put it out and it went on an iPod and you could listen to it. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Basically a radio show, a recorded radio show on an iPod. It became podcasting. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's pretty, I mean, it's pretty wild, like where it's going, where it came from, where it's going. And I always give those guys a hard time. It's like, I've been podcasting since 2005. I don't know where, but I really do appreciate those guys. Cause if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be, doing what we're doing and being able to kind of run whichever path we wanted to. So
yeah,
I took a shot. I'm kind of stepping back a little to say, I love you 2005 podcasters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I've heard the same folks, but you do have to say, like, at least they blaze a trail. I mean, they pushed the technology, they figured some of those things out which we're doing 100%. Now, which seems so easy. It wasn't so easy then. And, it's kind of cool to see how it's evolved. And honestly too, I do think that, we were talking about the Top Lake Clubhouse and apps like this now, like it has made what has happened with, COVID and the whole shutdown of things and us all becoming so reliant on technology over the last couple of years to stay connected, really forced the adoption of the technology that was there and then forced a lot of these companies to ramp up because all of a sudden now we've got users everywhere and everybody wants it. And it's like the demand is there, and so this is why, too, to your point, you're saying it's become a lot easier now. And I think it's because of what we've been going through the last, couple of years. So I guess if there's a silver lining, it would probably be, that kind of adoption of technology that maybe people are a little bit hesitant about, but then also force these companies to like get their act together.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think it's, and I would almost go to say like, if you're running a business and you're not doing something, podcasting, live streaming, YouTube, I mean, that is it's a piece of content that will work for you, build that relationship over and over and over when you're sleeping. It's not like you're showing up to networking meetings every Wednesday and Friday night trying to meet as many people as you can, because you let your content and your expertise kind of shine through, and it's available anytime. Like I can go on your YouTube channel and just get value all day long. It's pretty insane, and get to know you and build that relationship with you. And you're not even, you put in the effort once, but you're not putting it in like every day. So it's pretty wild. Yeah.
Well said. I think it's a great way to like definitely leave a mark, whatever it is that you're doing to be able to get it. And whether it's from an entertainment value, which is just as needed as the, the information, quote unquote, guru information, out there. But I think it's just, it's just a great way to, put yourself out there. And I think that if anybody out there listening or watching this is kind of hesitant, don't just go for it. Take the leap. Because I certainly did. I know you did. And like, countless others, we all sort of have that same story. So don't let technology be a barrier. The only barrier is you. So just go ahead and do it. What I did want to talk to you about, so there's a few things I wanted to just touch on here as we talk. So, and I know these things about you because, you and I have talked, we've, had a lot of conversations together, whether it's, on platforms like this or off, back channel stuff. But, I think one of the things that people know you for initially, and we'll talk about creating daily in a minute, but is really sort of that whole like original, your podcasting for money scenario and content that you're putting out, because you figured out, through the fishing podcast, sort of how to do that, how to grow an audience and how to, chase that elusive, like, how do I monetize my content? How do I monetize my podcast? How do I make money off of podcasting? And I would say that for the most part, I mean, you've been very successful at that. You've been able to convert, where maybe others are really having a difficult time with that. So, I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit and maybe just share some of the lessons that you've learned that have, helped you grow and monetize your podcast, get paid for creating.
Yeah, man. I love that. I love talking about this because I do have a passion to help other content creators, or really people who want to be content creators, realize that there is an opportunity to financially succeed, or whatever that looks like for you. I mean, it might be make $1,000 extra a year. It might be make $100,000 a year. And it's definitely doable with content. And I think the thing that when I started looking into it, because I had this fishing podcast, it was doing super well. And then I started the other one. So I started the second one during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at it. And that was, so the first one, my co-host and I were like kind of on the odds of like, how should we monetize it? If so, how do we monetize it? I monetized it because I sold it to him. So I was pretty happy with that.
Right.
And then on the second one, that was part of the deal going in. It was like, hey, I'll do this, but this is going to be a business. This isn't going to be just a hobby podcast. Like I've done it once. I've built it. My co-host that does it with me, he came from the fishing publication. So that was the fishing publication I worked for. He's now my partner. And so we kind of went into that. And the thing that when I was researching, how do you monetize a podcast? How do you do this? It was grow your audience huge and then sell a CPM rate. And that's a cost per 1,000 impressions, downloads, whatever it is, Facebook marketing, Instagram, newspapers, billboards, TV, all these media companies sell by a CPM model. And I'm sitting there doing the math of what the CPM rate was for the industry. And I'm like, dude, there's just no way I'm ever going to make any money off of this. Like, no way. And so I started to really think about what I was doing as a creator, what my co-host was doing, what was the real value that we brought to, potential sponsors. And that's what we were looking at. We're comfortable with having, similar to your show, you have a sponsor of the show. So we were like, okay, we're going to go, do the sponsorship thing. And instead of going to a sponsor and saying, hey, I'm great, I'm awesome, I'm, blah, 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 my podcast this, I'm award-winning, blah, blah, blah. We went and really said, hey, look, we have this small audience of probably 100 people at that time. I think we had 400 downloads. We were on episode number 4, but we have a pure audience. And so I went with the quality over quantity approach to say, I might not have the biggest audience, but I have the perfect audience for you and what you're trying to accomplish. So that was kind of the first thing that I reframed this sales approach with these sponsors was I knew I wasn't going in there with numbers. I mean, I had 4 episodes. Like I probably, even today, if I walked in there today with numbers, I was still not making any money. Like, it'd be like, you'd be like, oh, okay, whatever, dude. But we went in there and we're like, a pure audience. I'm like, look, this is who we're going after. We're going after people who fish on the coast of North Carolina, from Little River to Kitty Hawk. And if it doesn't live in the salt and the sand, we don't talk about it. It's inshore, offshore, near shore. And they're like, yeah, dude, we're in. I mean, this is a sponsor, right? I'm wearing their hat. They're like, we're in. We'll do it. We'll take a risk. So then what we did was we really put them as a part of the show. So we really made them a segment of the show. We have a lot of fun with it. We got a new segment idea coming up, even in the next couple of weeks that we've been working on. But we really incorporate it because we're building this community. We're building this audience. But we're taking this audience from, people who listen, they passively watch or listen, but they don't get involved. We're saying, how do we really create this awesome community? And so we, brought in the sponsor and started really incorporating them. And one thing, man, I'm kind of giving away the works here, for some people, but when you're selling advertising, there is a thing, return on investment's a thing, all that. But what you want to really focus on is the longevity of it. And so we took the approach of, hey, we're going to charge you one time for a lifetime ad spend. So you might spend $800, $1,000, $2,000 with us, but we're going to leave that segment in that show forever. And so there's
just baked in.
Yeah, it's baked in. So there's no other advertising model on the planet that's going to give you that, first of all.
True.
Because, a CPM rate, that's what happens. These CPM companies will integrate ads in and they'll whip them back out. And so one, that doesn't build a relationship with the sponsor. In my opinion, it's not that valuable to the sponsor because who cares about 12 episodes or 10 or 4 or whatever. We're signing people up for 52 episodes a year and saying, hey, we're going to leave them in there forever. So you pay us one time, we're going to leave them in there forever. So that was really, our approach. And I think you got to go after the right people too, man. It's not the mattress. We don't have a mattress company. Like we don't have an insurance company. We're going after qualified people who are really in our niche and want our audience, and we want our audience to want them as well. And so that's, kind of make it a little short, man. That's like my whole focus is to really qualify the sponsor, qualify my podcast, be super honest. Like, do I really have a niche audience? Do I really have a niche target? And so I say niche more than probably any person on the planet. But I've seen it time and time again where it's like, hey, we can go to a sponsor and have this conversation. They're like, yep, that's who we want. We're in, because it's the quality. It's the quality over the quantity for sure.
Yeah, I think that's, man, that was some really solid advice there, because I think that it's this thing. I mean, you hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. I'm trying to do it myself. I mean, it's one of those things where, it's nice to get paid for what you're doing. Like, it's not the driving reason why I do this show, but it does take time, and there is a financial aspect tied to producing the show.
100%. Yeah.
And, it'd be nice to at least just make that back, and to be able to do that, having sponsors, and that's, you do it, everybody does, you see everybody set up with the buy me a coffee and those little tips. But honestly, when podcasters sit there and say, hey, every little bit helps, it's really the truth. I mean, it's totally the truth. Every little bit helps. When you get that $2 or $5 tip, it's like, great, that goes towards the StreamYard bill for the month, or that goes towards the, Libsyn platform for the month. It's like, it really does help. And when you do have a sponsor, it really helps to like offset those costs, and it takes a little bit of that pressure off of like, okay, I'm just getting those reoccurring charges every single month by doing, the show. But I know a lot of people are like, well, where do I start? How do I get a sponsor? Does it just magically happen? Oh, I go over to one of these AdCast type sites, and they're like, I have to have 10,000 downloads per episode. Like,
yeah, not us.
Geez, I'm lucky if I get 50.
Yeah. That's how we are, man. It's, it wasn't happening. And I think that's the thing that I would say for most podcasters who want to monetize with a small audience is, and nobody wants to hear this because everybody wants to be Joe Rogan, which Joe Rogan has a niche, by the way. You can figure it out. You watch his show, his content. There's only a certain, demographic that listens to his show. And if you really want a sponsor, you really got to nail it down to what do they value and what is your audience value. Right. And so for us, man, that was really the number one thing, was to say, hey, let's focus. And even though it's hard, even though it's tough to focus, even though it's a lot easier to get on the mic and go, hey man, let's crack a couple cold ones and just talk bull crap about, the last thing we saw on Dr. Phil. But at the end of the day, I want to create this amazing platform with amazing content, with amazing sponsors. And then what happens is you create this pure audience. They get to know you. So now what's happened, Chris, is we're kind of in phase 2, is we've had sponsors for 2 years. We have multiple sponsors, multiple deals throughout the year coming in. And then phase 2, we've built this, this audience that keeps showing up. So we're like, all right, let's start a membership. Let's offer additional content per week. So we're keeping our sponsorship. Now we're creating additional content every single week. Right. And now we've had, almost a couple hundred people sign up for that. And we're like, every single month for a small monthly fee. And we're like, dude, this is incredible. Now, the thing that memberships get you that sponsorship doesn't get you is scalability. I can only put so many sponsors in my show before my audience is going to roll their eyes until they fall out of their head. Right. But I can scale up a membership, but I got to have the audience, a big enough audience to get a small percentage of those people to convert. Right. Some people say it's 5 to 10%. We're at probably 1.5% right now. And we're, if we hit 3%, we'll be super stoked on it. Right. So we'll see. But, I think that is, if I had to say one thing, like, even if it's tough, man, pick a niche. It's going to help you all across the board. Like, we're not guessing what kind of content we're going to produce. We know. We're not guessing where to find the information our audience wants to know. We know where to go because we know where they're hanging out online, and we know what Facebook groups they're in, so we can get in there and create content and conversation around those things. We're not guessing what kind of sponsor would be good or who can we reach out to. Like, we know who caters to them because we get on their Facebook and their Instagram. We see them wearing apparel. We see them at a boat dealership. We see, whatever that looks like. And so it sounds hard to do a niche for some podcasters, but it really makes your life easy in the long run. But it's all work, man. It's all it's all showing up. And when you get a sponsor, it's like, dude, now I got a job. Now I'm showing up. Now it's not like, oh, you know what? I'll just do that episode next time. Like, no, dude, you're showing up. You're doing the work. Like, I'm working. I'm working on 5-6 episodes this week to put out and do all that stuff. So yeah, man, it's a heavy lift, but we're in the beginning stages. We're 2 years in, so it's pretty exciting.
Well, I mean, that's awesome, man. I mean, and congratulations on doing that and growing the show and monetizing it, because it's key. And I think as all creative professionals out there, you do it because you love creating, but getting paid for your work makes it even a little sweeter. So it's good to hear when success is there, and kudos to you for going out there and sharing it with people too. I think that's really important. Sharing what you've learned with others in a really honest and authentic way, and not making guru promises of follow my system and you'll be crushing 7 figures in your podcast in 30 days or whatever the heck
I wish
systems out there.
Here's my system. Qualify your potential sponsors, get on LinkedIn, figure out who you need to talk to, and make a phone call, and then make another phone call, and then make another phone call.
There it is.
It's a sales job. There's nothing easy about it. I spend 2 weeks of my life every year on the phone just trying to set up deals for the year. But maybe something else too. It's like, as a content creator in monetization, it's not just we're not just sponsorships, but we're sponsorships. Now we're memberships. Now we're working on, once we kind of get this membership built up to a certain number, we might start a second membership group in a different, different area, or we may launch apparel. We've been doing Buy Me a Coffee for a long time. So our audience is amazing. Like, we probably bring in, before we started promoting the membership, we're probably bringing in $200 a month off of Buy Me a Coffee, which is, fantastic for us. It's like, all right, this is great. So I think as a content creator, you got to kind of look at everything, start with one thing that you're passionate about. If you're, whatever, and then start there and then stack and stack and stack and stack. And so I'm not getting paid just from one thing, and I'm not getting paid from one project. I have Creating Daily that's bringing in money. I have coaching clients that I'm working with. I have, I just took on an opportunity to like virtually produce someone's show, which is like, what do I have to do? How can I just create content? What do I have to do not to go work for somebody else? Like, sign me up.
That's how it goes, man. That's how it goes.
Yeah. You know how it is.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. I want to talk about Creating Daily, because it's a show. I was just on it yesterday, but I've been watching it, and I've been catching it on LinkedIn. Actually, LinkedIn's been the place I've been catching it live the most. But I know you're on the Bullhorn app, and another app as well, where you're doing the show. Yep. So let's talk about Creating Daily, because this is like, while you've got the fishing show and everything else you're doing Creating Daily, like, and the daily part is for real. Like, you're going on the air Monday through Friday, streaming 2:00 Eastern, I think. Here is when I say it. Yeah.
2:00 Eastern. Yeah.
So talk about this.
This was kind of a funny project, because I did have a podcast called Podcasting for Money. And then I was like, oh, that's a little too niche. Like, I can't really talk about that every single week. And then I switched that name to Creating for Money. And then, once again, it's kind of like, some people you say money and they freak out and they like panic. And so it's like, all right. And do I want to be that guy? It's like money, 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 all that stuff. I was like, what am I really trying to accomplish? Like, what I'm trying to accomplish as a creator is to help other creators. Like, that's it. Really, I want to help other creators. I'm doing the fishing thing. I'm rocking and rolling. I'm testing stuff with it. I'm doing the thing. But then how do I take that experience and help other creators? Right. And then take other people's experience, much different than mine, and help other creators. And so I was kind of brainstorming, like, what do I want to do here? And then I did it. It was honestly kind of the dumbest thing ever. I was like sitting in my house. I'm like, I'm gonna do a show. I'm gonna do another show. But then I'm not really good at weekly shows, to be honest. Like, I have too much downtime, too much time to think, too much time to overthink, and then I just don't produce. And so I'm like, I'm not going to do that. It's going to take too long. Like, I'm going to do a daily show. I like radio. I like radio style. Yeah. I think it's pretty fun. Like, I love radio talk show or daily talk shows.
Yeah, me too.
and I see all these live streamers going live and having all this fun. I'm like, dude, I want to do that. I want to have fun. And so, man, I basically just committed in one, it was one afternoon. It took me about 3 hours. I was like, I'm just going to create a show. I don't know what it is. I have no idea how it's going to work. And all of a sudden, dude, I just started like firing off ideas. Like, okay, I'm going to do a creating, show. And then I was watching something on Twitch in this process, and it was called like Wrestling Daily or something. And I was like, oh, dude, Daily, like, that's a cool name. That's a cool, I want to, I'm thinking about doing a daily show. Like, that'd be cool, and then it's like, kind of that play on words. Like, I'll create daily, but then I'm working with other people who are, obviously creators creating something daily. So yeah, man, I kind of birthed it, for lack of a better term, in a few hours. And I just put it together on the way down, man. I just literally jumped out of someone else's plane with my plane in a bag and a parachute and started putting it together. And that's what I've been doing for the last month. But I think we got 33, 34 episodes dropped already. Awesome. Or something like that. It's been wild. It's been fun. Yeah. Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah, I think that's great, man. I mean, like I said, I've been watching, and I haven't been able to watch every day. But I definitely try to catch when I can. And, you've got some great guests on, and I learn a lot from hearing everybody, and, being that, and you tend to have a lot of creators or creative professionals on. I mean, you also have, straight up just people that are involved in business. You have entrepreneurs, you have other coaches on. So I think you have a good mix, but yeah, I definitely like your approach to things. And I agree with you on the radio kind of aspect. I mean, that's something I enjoy doing too. That's, a lot with the Chris and Amanda show definitely has that sort of like morning show vibe type thing. And cause for Amanda and I, it works really well. And I have a fun time. It's a lot of fun for me to do it that way, but I love the daily aspect. I mean, that's something too, that like, Amanda and I have talked about like 100 times over. Like, we would love to do the Chris and Amanda show every single day. I think we'd have to switch the format up a little bit about what we talk about. Like, I don't think it would be just how we pick 3 songs every day, but I think that we could definitely find a way of making it a daily show if we could.
Yeah. And I think too, when you do it, because everybody, here's the thing, man. Like, if you're thinking about doing something, and you talk about it too much, one, you're going to get a lot of people's opinions about it. And I didn't tell anybody.
I saw your reel recently, by the way, which was hilarious because you hit the nail on the head on that one.
Yeah. So
guru reel.
you get gurued, and that's what I call it. Like, if you're not careful, you're gonna get gurued. And so
I love that. You should make a shirt out of that.
Yeah, don't get gurued. Because what happens is you start telling people and you start sharing their ideas, and then you get people who've never done it before, or they did it, and didn't enjoy it themselves, and then they talk you out of doing your own thing. Like, I want to start creating daily. I told a few people, and a few people were like, "You're crazy," and I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway, because why not? I can. Yeah. It's not like I'm signing a contract for $10 million a month to pay some live stream bill. Like, I go live on the internet for free, essentially. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it. If I do it for 10 days and I decide like, hey, this isn't for me, cool. I still did a live show. I still have that experience.
Right.
But man, what I found out, Chris, is one, it's super fun. It keeps me super accountable, because I'm like, I'm showing up anyway. Because I say, hey, I'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'm showing up. I got to show up no matter what I do. I got to show up tomorrow because I said I'm going to. So I'm excited about it. I sit down and it's like, dude, I get jazzed. It makes the rest of my day. And it's just my personality, right? I feel this pressure when I'm live that I don't feel when I'm podcasting. I know if I'm podcasting, I'll hit this record button 50 million times. But if I'm live, I'm like, dude, you're just yourself. Like,
the same way. I have the same mindset, man. It's like you're real. I mean, that's exactly why everybody goes, why do you do your show live? I'm like, that you just because of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something about it that is like, it's do or die, man. Like now it's like you're on this edge of the cliff and it's like, either you jump or get eaten by wolves. Like, all right, adios, I'm out of here. So yeah, man, I think that's a part of it too. You know, it's fun. It's exciting. Mm-hmm. I never really done a solo interview show where I interview a bunch of people, especially not back to back to back like I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But dude, it's a lot of fun, man. And it's fun to bring on other creators and highlight other creators and, you know, really build this community that I think we're all trying to, that really makes the world go round. Like, dude, if it's not, I live in Puerto Rico for the last 10 months.
Right.
And one thing I've learned from living here is I took my community, my physical in real life community for granted. I would like, oh, I'm working when I should have been hanging, you know?
Right.
And so, you know, so I've really learned like, hey, like take this thing and rock and roll with it. And so, yeah, man, like, you know, people will tell you, oh, don't do that. That's hard. Everything's hard. Just depends on how you want to chalk it up. But, but the daily thing, man, has actually been easier because I have my run sheet. I have my segments. Now, sure, I could probably get creative and change those segments, in which I probably should. They might be getting old after 30 something episodes. But so far, man, it's like, it's fun, dude. And I just get in there, get in my little spreadsheet or my little, you know, Google Doc every morning and change out a few segments. And, you know, I pre-plan, and people want to be on it. It's fun because they're just booking out. I'm booked out until, you know, June sometimes. So I'm like, this is cool, man. This is, it's a lot of fun. I don't know, dude. I'm having fun. And then opportunities came, you know, there's like a couple of live streaming companies that are like, oh, you're going live every day. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, why don't you come over here and we'll give you, you know, we'll give you a little hookup for coming over here and doing business with us. And I'm like, cool, let's go.
I mean, it makes sense. It's a win-win. It's a good partnership. I mean, because if you're going live every day, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? These streaming, they need content. They need people on here. So if you're going live every day, then, you know, hey, you're going to talk about it, about, you know, coming over here and listening to it or bringing value to their community that's already on there. So it makes total sense to me.
Well, dude, and I think that's the thing too. Sometimes as content creators, we kind of sit on, and I'm learning this, like these companies, and I work on Amazon Live too. So I'm an Amazon Live influencer. I haven't really touched it that much, just because, you know, distance and all that stuff.
Right.
But man, there is so much opportunity for people who do what we do. Right. And if we got to start viewing ourselves as talent and saying, hey, you know, we're doing something that these companies aren't capable of doing, or they don't want to manage a team that does it, or they don't want to deal with it. They don't have the bandwidth. They want to build their platform, their business, whatever. And so, you know, Amazon is over here rewarding people for coming on and saying, hey, look at these blue light glasses I bought. They're $10. They're awesome. They're great. You know, I poke my eyes out with them, whatever. And then people buy them. And then you as a creator get a small commission. So you do that 50 times a month or 1,000 times a month or whatever, and you're making money. So I'm generating money from all these little different streams of revenue. None of them are like all in, like none of them are like a salary job. You know, like I'm not going to do just one, but when they all come together, I get to keep creating and get paid to do it. So it's kind of a, you know, it's one of those things like, I'm going to pull from different, you know, it's like you. It's like if you had one client, like, and that client died, you'd be like, oh, I don't have a business. So you try to get one client, you try to get 20, 30, 40, 50 clients, you know? So
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's like, you know, I don't know. You always feel the pull to want to create and keep creating more. And that's the key though. You said it, like, you got to have fun doing it. First and foremost, gotta feel it. You gotta have fun. Otherwise, then what's the point of doing it? Because if you're just doing it to do money, okay, like, it's just, I feel like that, I mean, and that's just me. So I feel like you're going to flame out really quick, because if you're motivated by money, I can tell you the money end takes an extremely long time to happen. I mean, if any, you know, you guys have all just heard Billy's story. It's not like they started doing a fishing podcast and they got money. Like, it's, you know, it still takes a while. So if you're in it for the money, great, but just, you know, realize it's not happening overnight. It's not just falling out of the sky. you know?
And dude, this is one thing that I used to do a lot, was like, I was a really opportunist kind of guy. And I would always look and say like, oh, I could do this business, or I could sell stuff on eBay, or I could go thrift shopping. I love all that stuff, man. I get ripped when I go to a thrift store and find a little dongle that costs $5 and sell it for 80 on eBay. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm awesome. Yeah. However, it's not sustainable or scalable. And I think there's a point during the pandemic, and really since I've lived here in Puerto Rico, where I just had to really be super honest with myself and say, what is it that I want to do? when I grow up. You know, I'm 36 almost. Like, what is it when I want to do? And I think that is when I made that decision to say I want to create content. That's what I want. I didn't know how I was going to make money doing it. I'm still learning how I'm making money doing it. And that's one thing my wife told me early on, like, honey, you're too focused on the dollar. Like, do what you love. And, you know, she's built a very successful company doing graphic design, website development. And it really is weird, man. It feels like you're taking a shower with your socks on, because you're like, wait a second, I'm going to go in here and create a daily podcast that I don't necessarily get paid for. You know, when I first started doing it for the first week, I'm like, how is this going to work out, man? Like, I'm spending a lot of time on this show. Like, how is this working? But now, after I've been doing it for a while, opportunities are popping up. You know, people are seeing me every day and messaging me going, holy cow, man, you're doing a daily show? Like, come on my podcast. Let's talk about it. And now it's a story to tell. Yeah. No one was beating my door down to say, Billy, come talk about creating for money. Because they all thought I was like a snake oil sales guy.
Well, yeah, I know. That's the unfortunate thing that happens with that. But yeah, I mean, see, and I think that's perfect. You know, we talk about this a lot. I talk about it in my individual content. I have people on here all the time. And, you know, this is what it comes down to. This is part of, like, you know, part of the personal branding of things. But like, when you start putting yourself out there, things happen because people notice you. And if you're looking for that quote unquote edge or the thing that makes you memorable, well, there you go. So for you, you found it. Like, you've got the Creating Daily, and that's like your thing. And that's the thing that makes you memorable. That's the thing that keeps you top of mind with people in your sort of sphere. Yeah. You know, and I think that's an important thing to take away from this conversation for anybody out there who's, you know, for all of you who've been listening and watching, is that, you know, don't let the fear of, you know, oh, I'm going to suck at this, or I don't know, it's not going to be good. Whatever it is, whether it's doing a podcast or doing videos or making TikToks or designing like things in Canva, like, don't be scared of doing, just start doing it. Because the thing is like, you're not being noticed at all by not doing anything. So, you know, better to be out there and just start learning on the fly and get noticed for it, because people will take notice of that kind of stuff. And I think make it a good way, make it a story. Like you said, it becomes a story. Like, hey, I saw that graphic you post. What was up with that? Oh, I'm trying something new. You know, it was great, but here's that, you know, and now it's a story, but you can turn it into something still very positive. So don't, you know, people need to stop. You just got to get out of your own way. Stop letting you stop you is really what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man. And I think for me, Chris, too, is like, I always because I worked for some really talented people when I was doing production for other people. Oh yeah. And so, you know, I would even not create content because I couldn't create it as good as they could. And then I had this like weird thought of like, what are other people gonna say? What are they gonna think? And then one day I just realized, like, man, nobody is thinking about me as much as I think they are. And so it's like, when I kind of had that revelation of no one cares, like, honestly, at the end of the day, what Billy Thorpe is doing, then it was like freedom, man. It was freedom in my mind to go, all right, cool. I'm going to be my goofy, you know, whatever. Like, I bought a shirt at Walmart today just to be different and goofy, you know, and wear palm trees on my shirt. Like, I'm in my reel, and I may never ever wear that shirt again, or I might wear it every day. I don't know.
Who cares?
Well, who cares? You know, it's like part of my quirky personality. Right. And I think there's certain people that are going to be attracted to that, and they're going to say, oh man, I get Chris. And there's certain people not going to get Chris and not going to get Billy. And that's good too. We want both of those tribes. Sure. I want the tribe that is not, you know, doesn't like me or doesn't jive with me. Like, go find your person or your people. And then, you know, that leaves more room for the real people who want to be a part of my world and I want to be a part of theirs. And so, yeah, man, I think it took me a long time to learn that. I wish I would have learned it in my 20s, but I'm sure glad I learned it in my 30s, because now I'm attracting people who are like, you know, friends, man. They're friends, they're colleagues, collaborators, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, all well said, and I think that you said something just there that was interesting, and I think about this all the time. I always say it's always like what I wish I knew now, you know, and when I was younger, you know. But it's true. But the thing is you got to say, like, you know, would it have hit me that way? Would I have been ready for that information? Like, you know, would I have understood that information? Probably not, because I feel like that information that we have is because it was learned, because we experienced it. And now it makes sense. You go, man, I wish I knew that then. But if we hadn't had that experience yet back then, then I don't think the lesson for us is going to go anywhere. You know, the
That's
younger
true.
version of ourselves is probably not going to, you know what? Here's a really quick story. So when I had started my business, I got a mentor early on, and it was, it's one of these things, man. You can't explain, but you put things out and people show up, call it what it was, but people show up to help you. And I had a gentleman who helped me and my business partner very early on in our career and just took us under his wing. And we didn't know anything about business, man. I went to school for filmmaking. We started business accidentally, basically. Yeah. And he just taught us it was like going to business school with him. Like, he just taught us all the basics of business. And he gave us both a book.
Wow.
Early on, called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And if no one's ever read it, go out and go read it. Everybody, if you listen to the show regularly, you've heard me talk about it. And he literally handed it to us and said, listen, my father gave me this book when I was young and told me the secret to life is in this book. I'm not going to tell you what the secret is. You got to learn it and you got to figure it out for yourselves. And I read that book, and, it definitely made an impact on me. And I figured out what the secret was in the book. But, over time, and I had gotten that book probably when I was about 25, and here I am 48. And there are still parts of that book that like hit me now, like in ways that 25-year-old me, couldn't even interpret. But now I read it and I hear it or I listen and I'm like, oh my God, like that's like, now I'm ready for that lesson, because now I've been through it to be able to understand the lesson learned now from that. So just to bring it back to what you were saying, that's I think good, that, man. It's just you'd want to know it, but I don't know if it would have hit us or made a difference, Yeah,
it probably somebody told us. We're just like, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about.
Probably, I was too busy being punk rock and like, I'm just going to do it my way. And it's like, well, no, you can still do it your way. I'm just like, but it's like arguing with yourself.
Yeah, don't argue with yourself. All right. If you're listening or watching, don't argue with yourself. All right.
No, don't. It's a losing battle. It's an unwinnable battle. Oh man. Well, Billy, man, this has been awesome. Man, we said this yesterday. It was like, this is basically just a spillover from yesterday's conversation.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll have many more of these where it's just kind of continuing on the stream of conversations that we've been having on the air and off the air too. So, but I definitely want everybody to, check out Billy's show. It's Creating Daily. If you go to, I've had it coming up throughout if you're watching this, you've been seeing it coming up, creatingdaily.live. If you're listening to this, creatingdaily.live, you can use the link in the show notes and in the video description to access Billy's site. So that way you can get hooked up on times, where to watch, because he streams it out and there's a lot of places where you can watch the show. So you have no excuse to not watch it. Plus you can watch replays and all that. But so Billy, I'm going to throw it back over to you. Any final words you want to let everybody know? Anything you want to bring to everybody's attention? How can people help Billy? How can people help Billy Thorpe out?
Yeah, man. One of my last thoughts I'll kind of share is like, if you don't, and usually I say this in the world of like getting a sponsor, like if you don't ask, the answer is always no. I think Nora Roberts. I always want to say Nora Jones, but Nora Roberts said that. Right. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. But if you don't try, it's not. It's like there's a saying, with fishing. It's like it's time on the water. I think I said that on our show the other day. Yeah. It's no matter what you do, it's time on the water. It's going out there. It's trying. So yeah, man, I love to connect with other creators. Or if you're thinking about creating, go to creatingdaily.live. Check out the show. That's the best way to connect with us, support the show just by watching it, sharing it, subscribing to our, our channels as well. After you subscribe to Chris's, if you haven't already, put it in that order. But yeah, man, I love it, dude. Thanks for having me on the show. Love what you do. You're an inspiration to all creators and business people out there. So keep rocking and rolling, man.
Thanks for saying that, man. I appreciate it. I love what I do. And I love, much like you, I love helping people out and talking to people and providing any value I can. Really, it's, I've spent my whole life doing it and I don't plan on quitting anytime soon. So yeah, man, thanks so much for coming on. This has been awesome. Thank you for having me on your show once again yesterday. So, if you want to hear my episode, head over to creatingdaily.live. You can check out the episode I did with Billy. If you want to watch Billy live, once again, head over to the same thing, creatingdaily.live. If you want to follow the show, listen to past episodes, well, you can do that one way. You can watch all the past episodes. You can go over to YouTube, go to Rocket Growth Agency via YouTube, watch all the episodes I've done. Not every video episode makes it to the audio stream, so you'll definitely see some other videos and interviews that haven't made it to the audio stream. But if you want to listen to the audio version of the show, that you can do that by listening anywhere you get podcasts. Just search for Rocket Live, and you will be able to get access to the podcast anywhere. Plus, you can use all the links in the show notes and the video description below to get all that access. If you want to connect with me directly, if you want to learn more about what I do over at Rocket Growth Agency and how I can help, if you're a creative professional or an entrepreneur, or hey, you just want to figure out how to get that little bit of edge and become more memorable, like what Billy and I were talking about, you can do that right now. Just text the words "Let's Rock," no spaces, to 88500. The words "Let's Rock" to 88500. Text that, and you're actually going to get all my contact information, links, all that sent right to your text, and you'll have all my info. Once again, you can also use the links in the video description and show notes below to do that. I also do offer free discovery sessions if you just want to chat. Happy to do it anytime. So you can set all that up. Also, join the Discord group. It's free. Got a bunch of people in there. We're always having fun. Lots of great things to discuss about. So talk about whatever you want in that group. Come on, join us in there. And that just about wraps it up. So make sure you visit our sponsor, support our sponsor, Win Local. Head over to winlocal.com. Use my promo code ROCKET10 and get an additional 10% off at checkout. That's Rocket Live. That's winlocal.com. Promo code ROCKET10 to get an additional 10% off. And if you like what you heard and you want to support the show, please head over to mybuymeacoffee.com/CVaglio. And from there, you can select a level, buy me a coffee that you feel I deserve. I feel like I deserve at least a coffee, trying to provide. Billy, buy Billy a coffee, for crying out loud. Guys,
no, buy Chris a coffee on my behalf. There you go. Yeah. Buy him 2 coffees.
There you go. All right, everyone. Well, thank you all so much for hanging out with us on another episode of Rocket Live. We'll see you all soon. And always remember, be authentic, be yourself, and always remember to rock it. All right. See you guys. Once again, just want to thank everybody for listening to another episode of the Rocket Life podcast. Please hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening to this. And also, don't forget, you can watch the video version of this interview over on the Rocket Growth Agency YouTube channel. Just use the link in the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to rock it.